This is Daily Blast Live. We're talking about what you're talking about.
You all ready for this?
This is a sham.
No.
Nope.
Y'all, just stop.
Get real.
Welcome to DBL. I got the brothers here.
Yes.
Yes. Can I say that?
From different mothers.
From different
Yes.
mothers. I felt weird saying that. I can't.
Probably not.
I would
Shouldn't have said
argue
it.
Jeff and I are closer than a lot of brothers. We've talked
I meant
every
my
single day.
brothers.
I would argue Jeff and I are close.
Wow,
We love you, girl.
starting off cold. All right, welcome to DBL. It's a big day for former President Donald Trump. He's testifying himself in the $250 million civil fraud trial in New York after both his adult sons testified last week. So if you don't remember, let me just quickly catch you up. It's all over the allegations that he inflated the value of key assets of his real estate. Now, the judge has already started sparring with Trump's lawyers. I've been following through tweets. He's warning them to control the former president and get him to stick to answering the questions. Meantime, Trump has already called the trial, quote, very unfair. What do you think of Trump testifying in the first place? Currently, as we're taping right now, he is attacking the judge personally. And at one point, the judge screamed, "Control your client or I will." Contempt of court is a real thing. We've seen it. My cousin with Vinny. People will go to...
My cousin with Vinny? Is that like
what is it?
Tuesdays with Maury?
Yeah, but we know that judges can put you away if you don't control yourself.
But he's the president, so we can't talk
Former
in these...
president.
He's currently running for president. I don't know if a judge, Jeff, is going to throw the president in jail. Where could he go? How would even the schematics of that look? Would the Secret Service be in the chow line with him?
Yeah.
I don't think
in the yard.
Right. I don't think that honestly, I mean, it's sad we're even having this conversation, but I don't think that this judge is prepared to do that. And I think that's what Trump is doing. I think Trump is trying to call his bluff because any one of us would have been under the jail by this. So in terms of sending him to jail, I don't know if that's the conversation we should be having. I think the conversation is, if we do, moving forward, start to find presidents liable for criminal action, what is the course of action? Other countries have put presidents in jail before. We're a young country. We haven't done that yet, but we will soon, if not with Trump.
Right, or Mar-a-Lago becomes a White House in itself where he's in house arrest, and it becomes, if he wins, I'm saying, that could schematically change a lot of things. Let me ask you
Very
this.
Pablo Escobar-like.
Yeah,
Remember
very.
when he built his own jail?
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Had the soccer team there kicking it?
What do you think
we
about
don't become that? Yeah.
We're close.
What do you think about him testifying in the first place?
I think he thinks he's someone that could talk his way out
I
of the
agree with
situation,
you.
right?
Yeah.
I really think he believes that.
Right.
A lot of times I say, I think Trump is a narcissist and he believes a lot of the things he say. Everyone's like, why are you sticking up for him? I'm not, I just call him a narcissist.
Right.
But I really do believe he thinks these things in his head. He's gotten to be the president, the top of the chain, with the thoughts that he has in his head. So for someone else to correct him and say, do it like this, who are you? I got to where I am because of these thoughts. So he doesn't listen to anybody but what's in his head. And what's in his head is a wow.
Yeah, it's a wow.
Totally agree with that.
Owen Wilson, wow, I agree with that as well, actually. Meantime, check this out. New polls show that Trump is beating President Biden in 5 of key swing states. So Trump's leading in Nevada, Georgia, Arizona, Michigan, Pennsylvania, states that Biden had won. But Biden does have a slight edge in Wisconsin. Now, the core of Trump's strength, according to the poll, seems to be the perception he's better at managing the economy. But the poll did show some voters appear to be ready to turn on Trump if he's convicted. Meantime, this is big, guys. The chief political strategist for former President Obama, his name is David Axelrod, is actually questioning if Biden should run. He tweeted, quote, "If Biden continues to run, he will be the nominee of the Democratic Party. What he needs to decide is whether that is wise, whether it's in his best interest or the country's. What do we all think? Should President Biden drop out or not?" Jeffrey.
Oh, right back at me, huh?
Oh, yeah.
I thought I was safe for a couple more minutes. What about you? What do you think? You haven't spoke. This is like, again, your Super Bowl. We say it all the time.
Big Super Bowl. Okay.
Tee it up.
There's a theory that I have that has been gaining strength. That behind the scenes, they're realizing that Biden's age, although I think he's fine, just traveled to Israel, has passed many good bills, he just appears to look very weak, which I agree, and is seemingly confused. But he manages to continue the presidency and the administration. The perception, though, is how old he is, and I agree, it's not a good look. The idea is this, that behind the scenes, they will find a way for Biden to gracefully exit with dignity, starting perhaps with this tweet. If it came from David Axelrod, that means it came from Obama. Obama was his president and Biden was his vice president. The only person who can say, Joe, it's time to leave is President Obama. So if this is
technically anybody can say that.
Right, but
and I don't know if we could associate the two. We could say allegedly came from.
Reportedly.
Yeah.
This is all speculation of a theory, again, that they're ready for him to move. David Axelrod starts this whole thing, and we have shadow campaigns that we've seen with Gavin Newsom all over the place, Gretchen Whitmer from Michigan. We've seen people sort of stepping up in case this happens, and I'm wondering, Al, if this is a strategy from within.
I mean, look, maybe. I mean, I don't think seeing Gavin Newsom on these Fox town halls were by mistake. I think he's trying to show the country, like, this is who I am. This, you know, he looks the part. He's got great presidential hair. And
Gun control, environmental control.
You know what, Jeff? Gavin Newsom, for as much as he's an insider, his last name isn't Bush, Clinton, Biden, Trump, all these same names that have just been recycled over and over again. But you open yourself up to, everybody says we want new blood, but you know, as soon as somebody else comes out that's not one of the old retreads, people will say, well, they don't know what they're doing. They're wet behind the ears. We need somebody here who knows how to deal with the Israel situation, knows how to deal with the economy, and that's somebody like President Trump. So then now you're back to, what does the country really want, as opposed to what do they say they want? Yeah,
I think Biden should step out. You could say the perception of it is, I think it's the reality of it, right?
Fair.
He falls down. He doesn't look great. They won't let him speak. He openly says, well, I'm supposed to wrap it up now because they don't want him to speak. You can't have, the way the economy is, the situation at the border, Kamala Harris's rating, if something did happen to him, she's our next president. There's a lot of things going against him. I would like to see new blood on both sides. I've been saying that forever. If Gavin Newsom happens to be that nominee to step in, I'd like to hear what he has to say. To me, he seems a little bit far left. Maybe he's not. Maybe that's my perception of him. But if he gets involved now, we get to know. Maybe he is a little more centered than I thought. And maybe he is someone I would want to run. I don't want either of these guys running. But I think now it's just a battle against Biden and Trump. And the way the country looks right now, at least from my perception seems to be the theme word here, it's hurting my wallet. It's hurting me. I could visually see it. I could visually feel it. And when I look at Biden as a leader, are you going to be someone who's going to change in the next 4 years? I don't see it. With the wokeism, how it went too far left, right? I think a lot of people don't care what Trump is in trouble or not. They're like, this is the only guy that'll stand up to counter what's happening on the left side of that. So I think that's Trump's appeal. I don't trust these polls, surveys, polls. Get real. You could skew them however you want. But for me, I'd like both blood. I'd like to see new blood on both sides.
Interesting. I think it's an interesting take. David Axelrod is doing it. I think it's a strategy from within, and I like it. Coming up on DBL, Barbara Streisand is giving details on her long-awaited memoir. She's revealing how she had a hard time talking about her exes. Plus, our interview with Dancing with the Stars host Alfonso Ribeiro. He's sharing what he thought about some of the most shocking eliminations on Dancing with the Stars. Okay, yeah, for sure.
I was being a sarcastic jerk.
No, but Jeff was also Africa. Jeff did it. Jeff did it. Really quick, I want to say, someone's saying, is it too late? And
No, she said.
I said it's a theory and a legend.
No, you said Obama said it. That's why I helped you out.
I appreciate that. Al and Chris, who I want to ask, do you think it's too late for someone to come and step in? A lot of people are writing that in. I asked my dad at DC, kind of insider, whatever. He says it's probably a bit too late at this point. Do you guys think it's too late?
It's too late in that.
Like to add someone new is what I mean.
Well, the thing is, it's like.
I don't think it's too late either.
What about RFK? He's going up in the polls. RFK Jr.
Oh yeah.
I don't think
I think he's a fringe in the polls that happens to spike because
Who's he going to take the votes away from?
Both.
He's like polling at like 22% or something.
Is he really? I mean, it's just like, and these are the same people that complain about Nepo babies and things like that.
You know, the Kennedys have said we disavow and denounce his candidacy.
The last two Democratic presidents came out of nowhere. Obama came out of nowhere. Clinton came out of nowhere.
Right. Well, I mean, you know.
Newsom's not only, he's still not even coming out of nowhere. We're seeing him on Hannity. We're seeing him take on Fox.
I think he's acquitted himself well.
I agree.
I really do, and I
With
just
his gun
think
control actions,
in terms
too.
of perception, it's a real thing. Trump has had a lot of verbal miscues in the last couple weeks as well. He's in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and messed up where he was. I think he's at Sioux Falls City or something. He's had a lot of, but the perception is that it's Biden.
Right, you're absolutely
and
right.
perception is reality.
You're right.
And if that's the truth, then Gavin Newsom looking kind of young, presidential.
Slick.
They got to play to the
Yes.
people.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Welcome back, Barbra Streisand, excuse me. She's the love of my life. She's spilling the tea. Her new memoir, My Name is Barbara, is out tomorrow. I'll be at the stores. And she makes some shocking and hilarious confessions. First, Barbara, who's 81, told the BBC these days she just wants to get in her husband James Brolin's truck and wander around because she hasn't had very much fun in her life. She also said she didn't like the way Siri was pronouncing her name on her iPhone, so she did something about it. Take a look.
Streisand, I said. My name is with a Z. It's Streisand, like sand on the beach. Now, how simple can you get? I figured I better call Apple. I mean, the head of Apple, Tim Cook. And he had Siri change the pronunciation of my name to be correct. I mean, that's one perk of fame.
Yes.
Yeah.
Shall we check that it works? I've got my phone here.
Oh, yeah, do it, can you?
Hey Siri, who sings Papa Can You Hear Me?
Barbra Streisand sings the song Papa, Can You Hear Me?
It works.
Isn't it right?
I love her. On CBS News Sunday morning, she told Gayle King she didn't want to write about her famous exes. Take a look.
You have a very impressive dating roster, if I may say. I'm bowing down to you. There's Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau. There's Don Johnson. There's Ryan O'Neill. There's Andre Agassi. I know. I'd laugh, too, if I had all those guys. So I would like to
Listen,
know.
I didn't want to write about any of them.
But you did.
My editor said you have to leave some blood on the page.
So what do we think about Barbara not wanting to talk about the exes? We've talked about we feel weird and icky about that. Do you think?
I think that was a really honest thing she said right at the end. She was like, I didn't want, it seems like she's had a good life, regrets like everybody has.
Not according to her, she hasn't had any fun.
Right.
She's worked a lot.
I want to address that as well, but I do think that we finally get an honest look because people are like, I'm just telling my truth. Your truth is your editor had his phone like this and said, if you don't trash Jeff, we can't sell copies. I can believe that. She has no reason to lie. So I thought that was really great insight by Barbara. And in terms of no fun, Jeff, you've been around famous people. I've been around famous people, but people that famous.
Yeah, that's a different level.
It doesn't look fun. You can't go anywhere. LeBron can't go to the mall. The Biebs can't go to a state fair. They could literally cause a riot in which people are killed. And so because of that, you're going into restaurants that are closed. You're going to Disney World where there's nobody there. It's got to be a weird existence where it's probably not as fun as it looks. You want to be like rich producer where you can be everywhere, but like no one knows you. That's what you want to be.
Yeah, well, listen, I've never been to Nobu, and they have plenty of time.
Yes.
You know what I mean? In state fairs, you can only eat so many hot dogs. You know what I mean? So
we'll see about
sounds
that.
pretty fun to me. I totally get your point.
Right.
I just want to know, at what point did she figure out that her name was spelled wrong? Was she Googling herself?
I'm sure she heard it somewhere. I'm sure someone was, it said it out, or maybe she was doing it in her memoir and it was saying it out loud, Zand.
Is there any doubt that Lori doesn't Google herself?
No, for sure she does.
Well, first of all, that's not true. But second of all, clearly her name means something to her. What is the name of her memoir? My Name is Barbara Streisand. She wants it to get it correct. She wants people to understand who she is, and she's always been that way. About the no fun thing, if you know anything about her, she's crippling stage fright. crippling. So finally, Gayle King said, but Barbara, you're not afraid anymore. You're Barbara Streisand. She says, I don't want to sing in public to anyone ever. So it's not fun when you can't go out and you can't do the thing everybody wants you to do so easily. It takes her years to get ready to do a concert. Like, she cannot go out on stage. So I get it. I also bow down to her, and I hope that I enjoy your memoir.
I think I'm not going to name which member because I can't remember specifically, but one of the members of Run DMC said a root of his alcoholism was he used to have to drink so many 40 ounces because he was terrified to go on stage. Like, stage fright, just because somebody's good once they're out there doesn't mean every second up until there is terrifying.
It's torture. Right. She said torture for her. For me, it's also torture. Coming up on DBL, Alfonso Ribeiro is giving us his scoop on this season of Dancing with the Stars. Coming up next.
Nobody enjoys driving in a freezing cold car, so it's understandable that many drivers like to let their cars warm up for a few minutes before hitting the road. Others are concerned about damaging their cars by driving with a cold engine. Some vehicles even have remote start features that make this easier, but one verified viewer reached out to ask if warming their car could actually damage their engine. So, let's verify. Our sources are the U.S. Department of Energy, Firestone Complete Auto Care, Smart Motors Toyota in Madison, Wisconsin, Chuck's Auto Repair in Seattle, and Napa Auto Parts. Gas-powered cars need oil to keep their engines lubricated. Chuck's Auto Repair explains when the engine is cold, gas may not evaporate completely as it combines with the air. This may lead to excess fuel in the chamber, which causes some of it to condense into the cylinder walls and strip away the lubricating oil. Our sources say this leads to more friction, which causes wear and tear and could eventually shorten the life of your engine. Instead, our sources recommend driving about 30 seconds after starting your car because the engine will warm up faster when the car is being driven. In the past, cars needed to warm up for several minutes to avoid stalling because they used a carburetor. Nearly all cars built in the last 30 years now use electronics to ensure engines get the right combination of air and fuel to run no matter what the temperature is outside. So, yes, warming your car could damage the engine. There is one exception. If you drive an electric vehicle, you may want to warm up your car before unplugging it because heating the cabin uses battery power, which can shorten your range. With your Verify, I'm Brandon Lewis.
Welcome back to DBL. His quick wit and beloved dance moves were sitcom gold in the 90s, but the laughs and dancing are far from over. Earlier, we spoke with Alfonso Ribeiro about hosting America's Funniest Home Videos and Dancing with the Stars. Check it out.
Please welcome back to the show, Alfonso Ribeiro.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All right, sir. This season of Dancing with the Stars has come with a lot of shocking eliminations, like Jamie Lynn Spears and Adrian Peterson. And we wanted to know, whose elimination were you most upset about?
Well, I mean, I can't say I'm upset about any of them, really. But, I mean, you know, it's at the end of the day, like, America votes and they, you know, send whoever they want to send home based on the judges' scores and the home votes. But the one that I was kind of the most disappointed with was actually Tyson Beckford. And the reason being is that he was having so much fun. And, you know, the show is such a family. It's so wonderful when you see someone who's excited to be there and having a great time, and he just didn't have a long enough great time, right? So that was the one that I was the most disappointed with.
You posted that your daughter went to her first Dancing with the Stars show. Shout out to all the girl dads out there. So I got to ask you, you know, when you take your kids somewhere for the first time, sometimes you just see it and they're like, this is what I want to do. So do you see dancing in her future?
You know, I mean, I see entertaining in her future, right? Like, she's only 4, so I'm not really pushing, you know, whether she's going to be a dancer or a singer. But she does have perfect pitch. She has perfect pitch. But, you know, over the summer, Emma Slater and I would go into the rehearsal studio and just kind of brush me up on dancing again. And she would come and do, like, her own little half hour with Emma. So, you know, so it's kind of fun. It's just, you know, touching on it, right? Like, growing up, I believe believe that you tried everything.
Yep.
And then
Yes.
whatever you graduated toward, right, that would be the one that you would do. But you have to at least touch on everything. And so that's kind of what we're doing as parents.
You're also the host of America's Funniest Home Videos. Love you as the host. What are your favorite types of videos to watch? Epic fails or pranks?
Well, I'm all about epic fails, right? Like pranks to me is like somebody, doing something to you, right? But like the epic fails is like you did that to yourself, right? You go up on a wet roof and fall off a roof, you did that to yourself. You get on a unicycle and you don't know how to ride a bicycle, you did that to yourself. So, I love those.
Alfonso, I got a couple of videos for you maybe to critique about me scaring some of my co-hosts right now. How far do you think these videos would go on Dancing with or on America's Funniest Videos?
Well, I'll say this: we have Sasha Farber on Dancing with the Stars, and he does all of the scare videos. This is, what, you should send that package in. We might air that. That's a good one. We might air that. Those packages work. We love scaring people.
I love it.
Good.
What's the prize again? I don't know. All right. So, Alfonso,
I know somebody who can hook it up for you.
I know a guy. Alfonso, I want to get to this because your kids played in Little League, and I got to know, my kids play football and stuff. Have you experienced crazy parents at your games as well?
Absolutely. I stopped basically allowing my kids to play Little League, and now we play travel ball because I'd rather coaches and not dads that think they know what they're doing, but really have no clue, and all they really want to do is make sure that their kid actually gets to play more. Yeah. But I will admit, sometimes I get a little overzealous myself because I'm passionate about the game. I'm not necessarily passionate about my kids getting preferential treatment. So when I see a coach do something that is against the kids, against the learning, against against what they should be learning, which is ultimately the game and being right and being a good kid. There was a situation where there was a kid. He made a tag, but he missed the kid. And the coaches went crazy saying that he hit him. And I was like, wait a minute. Look at the kid. His head is down in his lap. He knows he missed him. And you guys are lying to try to win the game. And integrity. Isn't that what the game is supposed to also be about? Right? So for me, that was where I get a little hot. Because I'm like, you call a kid safe, or you call a kid out, and the kid knows. Just look to the kid and go, did you tag him? No, I didn't tag him. Let's keep it moving.
Exactly.
It's Little League. You know what I mean? It ain't Major League Baseball, right? We ain't Texas Rangers right now. Come on.
Bravo, mazel.
Shout out to the Rangers.
That's right.
Alfonso, thank you for joining us. DBL Nation, be sure to watch Dancing with the Stars on ABC or Disney+. Also watch America's Funniest Home Videos on ABC. You can also stream on Hulu, Amazon Prime, or Disney+. Thank you again. Always great to see you. Bye, Alfonso.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Busy man.
Very.
This video on Facebook claims new federal surveillance of small business owners' lives will begin January 1st.
Starting 2024, you will need to register or be registered in a new federal database if you have any key role in an LLC or in an S-Corp.
Verify viewer Marsha asked us if this is really going to happen. So Marsha, let's verify. Will most small business owners have to give the federal government more personal information starting in 2024? Our sources are the Corporate Transparency Act, the U.S. Treasury Department, business law firm Baker Hostetler, and Comply Advantage, a regulatory tech company. In 2021, Congress passed the Corporate Transparency Act. The law requires nearly 33 million small business owners to submit reports to the Treasury Department's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, or FinCEN, starting in 2024. These reports must include personal information about the company's owners and, in some cases, other employees, including their name, home address, birth date, copies of their passport or driver's license, and taxpayer identification number. FinCEN says it needs this information to make it harder for bad actors to hide or benefit from their ill-gotten gains through shell companies or other opaque ownership structures. The law allows the government to penalize owners who do not file their ownership reports or don't keep them updated up to $500 per day. So, yes, most small business owners will have to give the federal government more personal information starting in 2024. Existing companies will have until January 1st, 2025 to file their reports. There are a few exceptions for certain types of businesses, like some nonprofits and larger companies. You can find out more about how to comply with this new law at verifythis.com. With your Verify, I'm Brandon Lewis. Two Verify viewers texted us to ask if, after this year, the U.S. plans to remain on daylight saving time permanently. So, let's verify. Our sources are the Uniform Time Act, the Sunshine Protection Act, and the National Conference of State Legislatures. The Uniform Time Act created a nationwide daylight saving time schedule to move our clocks forward in the spring and back in the fall. The law allows states to opt out of the schedule and remain on standard time year-round, which is why Hawaii, most of Arizona, and U.S. territories don't change their clocks. However, many states would prefer to remain on daylight saving time year-round. In the last 5 years, 19 states have either enacted legislation or passed resolutions to stay sprung forward all year long. California voters also passed a proposition to stay on daylight saving time, but that still needs action from the state legislature. No state can switch to DST until they get congressional approval. In 2021, the House didn't take up a bill to keep daylight saving time year-round, and a similar bill is currently pending with no signs that Congress will vote on it this year. So, no, the U.S. is not planning to remain on daylight saving time year-round. With your Verify, I'm Brandon Lewis.
This November, Sandals is giving thanks with an all-inclusive vacation giveaway to Sandals Resorts. Watch DBL every day for a word of the day. Then enter at dailyblastlive.com/sandals for your chance to win a 4-day, 3-night escape for 2 to any Sandals resort of your choice. The winner will be announced on DBL November 22nd. Today's Sandals word of the day is splash.
Oh, I never get it. Welcome back. If you're planning on remodeling a bathroom in your house, we've got tips to make sure you love it. I know, that was crazy. We're talking about in today's tips, sponsored by Jacuzzi.
And BET.
That's right. Welcome to BET.
There was a joke there. I just was scared to go for it. Yeah.
You can go there. Replace your pedestal sinks with a vanity sink. You can store extra towels and toiletries without taking up extra space, and adjust the room size with color. If you have a small bathroom, you want to look bigger, make sure your color palette stays in the white or light color spectrum. If you want to start your remodel, Jacuzzi can help you do it the right way. With a spa-like experience, Jacuzzi offers an unmatched, stress-free remodeling process. Visit jacuzzibathremodel.com or call 1-800-990-6834.
All right. Well, I mean, this is my thing. I was going with black for a while, Tori, and then I just, gonna go with white now. But black a lot. It's like all in my mind all the time.
I don't know why. It's weird.
If only our bathrooms were just universally colored.
Agreed. Bye, guys. I don't see color.